Good morning. Hope you are doing well and staying safe. Today, I want to ask you, what voices are you listening to? Because the voices you listen to can determine whether you live in fear or you live by faith. I remember when the pandemic first hit, which has been over a year now. I remember when it first hit, people were talking about COVID, and I wasn't really too afraid. I'm not someone who normally gets fearful or really gripped by fear. But I remember I was listening to and watching the news. The more I watched the news, the more I heard about it. And I just kept absorbing the information. I remember there was one time I was listening to the radio about the whole pandemic, and there was a woman who said, whatever you do, don't go outside. You don't want to catch it. Don't go to the shops. Don't even go out in your front garden. Trying to limit what you can do, or else you can catch this virus and you might die. And I'd been listening to the news now for a couple of weeks over it. And when I heard this announcement, I can't explain it, but I was gripped by fear. I've never had this before, but there was incredible fear that just gripped me where I didn't even know if I could step outside my own house because I was so afraid. And it kind of reminded me of 1 Samuel chapter 17 when the Philistines are coming against the children of Israel. They're in a battle. The children of Israel are facing this battle like they've never faced before, and they're facing this giant called Goliath. Goliath was at least 9 feet tall, some believe even taller. And he was a giant. He was this battle that they've never faced before. And it says that Goliath would go out every single morning for 40 days and he would taunt the children of Israel. He would taunt the army of Israel saying, come and fight me. Choose a challenger to fight me. And it says that they would listen to this. The Israelites would listen to this for 40 days. And it says they were greatly distressed and they were full of fear. Because they were listening to the taunts, to the voice of Goliath, they were not only just seeing Goliath, but they were listening to his taunts, and it caused them to be greatly afraid. Then David comes one day. He's not been hearing these taunts of Goliath, and when he sees Goliath, there is faith stirred inside him to say, who is this pagan Philistine that would come against the armies of God? And there's faith that is stirred inside David who wants to challenge Goliath. And it made me think, I wonder, is it because David wasn't in that army, he wasn't hearing the voices and the taunts of Goliath, that he wasn't driven or he wasn't captivated by fear, yet he was driven by faith? And I wonder, for some of us, is it possible in this season that we're so captivated, we're so held by our fear because of the voices that we're listening to? Maybe for some of us, we're listening to the voices of the enemy, the voices of the world, more than the call of God. And so maybe for some, it's time to turn off these voices. Maybe it's time to turn off the news for taking a break. Maybe it's time to turn off the voices of social media and start to get into the Word of God and to decide, you know what, now more than ever, I'm not going to be held by my fear, but I'm going to live out in faith, to take a step of faith. David took a step of faith, and I wonder what a step of faith would look like for us if we were to take it. Maybe for some, it's to take that step of faith and come to church live in person. Maybe we've never done that before, but rather than being held by fear, we're going to take a step of faith to come to church. Maybe for some, it's taking a step of faith to give our time or to give our finances into something God is calling us to do. Maybe it's to take a step of faith and be bold and share the gospel with our neighbor or with our friends or family member. Whatever it is, I want to encourage you to listen to the voice of God, to get into his word and say, God, I choose not to live by fear, but I choose to step out in faith. And what I love about David is that when he took a step of faith, not only did he kill Goliath, but because he took that step of faith and he brought breakthrough, not just for himself, but he brought breakthrough for the nation of Israel. And his step of faith, because he killed Goliath, it says that so many other people, the children of Israel, the armies of Israel, went to fight other giants. When we take out one giant, we give permission for others to do the same. So I want to encourage you, take a step of faith. Listen to the voice of God over the fears of this world. Hope you're doing well, and make sure you stay safe. God bless.